there is nothing, basically. I mean it quite literally. But then how do things emerge? Here, I feel a kind of spontaneous affinity with quantum physics, where, you know, the idea there is that universe is a void, but a kind of a positively charged void. And then particular things appear when the balance of the void is disturbed. And I like this idea spontaneously very much, that the fact that it's not just nothing, things are out there. It means something went terribly wrong. That what we call creation is a kind of a cosmic imbalance, cosmic catastrophe, that things exist by mistake. And I'm even ready to go to the end and to claim that the only way to counteract it is to assume the mistake and go to the end. And we have a name for this. It's called love. Isn't love precisely this kind of a cosmic imbalance? I was always disgusted with this notion of I love the world, universal love. I don't like the world. I don't know how I'm somewhere in between. I hate the world or I'm indifferent towards it. But the whole of reality, it's just it. It's stupid. It is out there. I don't care about it. Love for me is an extremely violent act. Love is not I love you all. Love means I pick out something and it's, you know, it's again this structure of imbalance. Even if this something is just a small detail, a fragile individual person, I say I love you more than anything else. In this quite formal sense, love is evil. Because what is love? Love is not idealization. Every true lover knows that if you really love a woman or a man, that you don't idealize him or her. Love means that you accept a person with all its failures, stupidities, ugly points, and nonetheless, the person is absolute for you. Everything that makes life worth living, but you see perfection in imperfection itself. And that's how we should learn to love the world. True ecologist loves all this. Pleasure principle. So again, what is wrong with happiness? I claim, to put it at most elementary terms, that happiness relies on the subject's inability or unreadiness to fully confront the consequences of their desire. The price of happiness is that the subject remains stuck in the inconsistency of its desire. What do I mean by this? In our daily lives, we pretend to desire things which we do not really desire, so that ultimately the worst thing that can happen to us is to get what we officially desire. Happiness is, I think, inherently hypocritical. It is the happiness of dreaming about things we really do not want. Contrary to what people mean, love does not idealize the other. The miracle is that you say, okay, you may be this person who is slightly stupid, not a perfect body, whatever, but still you are absolute for me. And true love precisely does not have to idealize. True love is not either eternal beauty or vulgar everyday person. True love is, you see eternal beauty in the everyday person. Love. Love in the good old-fashioned sense, which is today more and more rare. Love as an encounter. This is why in English and also in some other languages, not all, like French, you use the term fall. We fall in love. This is the eventual dimension. In what sense? Let's say you live a happy life. You are lucky, you have a job, you meet regularly with friends, you are not in love, you just make one-night stands, maybe here and there, you meet every evening with friends, you drink, you go to blah blah. Then all of a sudden, in a totally contingent way, let's say you stumble on the street, somebody helps you to stand up, it's a young girl or boy, blah blah, and of course, it's the love of your life. A totally contingent encounter, but the result can be that your whole life changes. Nothing is the same, as they say. You even spontaneously perceive your entire past life as leading towards this unique moment. You know, the illusion of love is, oh my God, I was waiting all my life for you. This, something like this would have been the love event. And I think it's getting more and more rare today. Many intelligent cultural critics noticed how we are almost returning to pre-romantic, pre-modern times when marriage or love connections were a matter of relatives, counselors, and so on. Your uncle, your aunt, they selected whom you will marry, and so on. Today, it's similar, only instead of all those old wise uncles and so on, it's dating agencies, marriage agencies, and so on and so on. What they offer us is precisely love without the fall, without falling in love, without this totally unpredictable traumatic encounter. And that's what I find very sad. I think that today we are simply more and more afraid of these eventual encounters. You encounter something which is totally contingent, but the result of it, if you accept it as an event, is that your entire life changes. It's a different story. This is why I think that this avoiding falling in love is the same phenomenon as a standard joke that I use in almost all my books. You know how we want to date the thing without the bad aspect of it, without the price we have to pay for it. We want, I don't know, we want sugar without calories, so we have sweeteners. We want beer without alcohol. We want, and so on and so on. And I claim it's the same thing in sexuality. We want brief, safe sex, sexual encounters without the fall, without this fatal attachment. And I think this is the most sad thing here, that even what is slowly emerging as maybe the predominant ideology today, what I ironically refer to as Western Buddhism. Life is just a play of appearances, don't take it too seriously, maintain a proper distance, don't get too attached to worldly objects. It fits perfectly this superficial consumerist attitude. So again, events are rare. An event is a traumatic encounter which, to put it in more learned philosophical terms, retroactively creates its own causes. Go a step further and claim that the notion of happiness itself is very ambiguous in its implications. Let me give you a couple, maybe you know some of them, I apologize in advance, examples. Maybe I even used this story here 10 years ago. I was some 15, 20 years ago, I think it was Lithuania, Vilnius, their capital, and we debated when are people happy. And we came to a nice, unequivocal result. Czechoslovakia, in those darkest Husak years, you know, in '68 they had almost this democratic socialism. It was crushed by the Soviet intervention, and then they had those 10, 15 years of so-called renormalization. Why were people, one can seriously claim, happy there? Three conditions, I claim. We established them. First, for happiness, your material needs should be basically satisfied. Basically satisfied, but not too satisfied. If you get, for example, coffee all the time in the supermarkets, you get used to it, no? It must be like that once a month you don't get coffee, because this makes you aware all the other days how lucky you are to have it. And this was exactly the situation there. People lived a safe life. It was a kind of a modest welfare society with limitations which precisely reminded you how happy you are. We in developed West don't have these limitations, so we are not so happy. Second extremely important feature. We all agreed on this. For people to be happy, you shouldn't have democracy which is taken seriously. Because if democracy really works, okay, even it doesn't really, if it works in the sense that ordinary people themselves experience themselves as the one who ultimately really decide their fate, that's not good. You worry too much. You have to have some figure of other political authority on whom you can put the blame for everything. And that was, in those dark years, the role of the Communist Party. As a friend from Czechoslovakia told me, even if the weather is like here, and I blame him, 2-3 days ago, all that storm and so on, oh, Chris is guilty, fuck it, like communists were blamed for everything. This makes, and I remember from my own country, it was a little bit of this. This makes life very easy, like you know whom to blame. You don't feel responsible. This is second and third condition of happiness. You must have an image of paradise, of place where things are really good, and this paradise has to be at a proper distance. Not too close, not easily accessible, because if it is, then you see it's basically the same shit as where we are, but also not too distant, because then it's just a vague dream. They had it. It was West Germany, of course, because communist authorities in the 80s at least tolerated watching Western TV and so on and so on. I seriously think that all these three features constituted a kind of perfect happiness. Because at the same time, it was no longer the old totalitarianism. You were allowed your private life, your niche. If you didn't mess with politics, it was relatively comfortable to live there. In this sense, to make a place further, I think that what disturbs happiness? Desire. By desire, I mean the force which compels you to move beyond, to disturb this fragile but nonetheless stability of happiness. To give an example that I use all the time. Let's say you live a relatively happy life, not being in love. Love is a catastrophe. Like you drink with friends in the evening, maybe you have here and there one-night stands and so on. Life is nice. Your job goes good. Then all of a sudden you fall passionately in love. Can you imagine a worse catastrophe? All the balance of your life is disturbed. You worry only about this. You are either jealous or nervous or whatever. You lose concentration for other things and so on and so on. Happiness is thus in itself confused, indeterminate, very ambiguous notion. I like this German anecdote. A German immigrant to the United States is asked, "Are you happy?" You know what's his answer? Yeah, I'm happy here, aber glücklich bin ich nicht. Like, it's not the same. So, I think that, now I will become a Christian, happiness is a pagan category. For pagans, the goal of life is to live a happy life. The idea to live happily ever after, I think, is a Christianized version of paganism. And religious experience and political activity themselves are considered the highest form of happiness. No wonder that Dalai Lama itself, and here I have problems with him, begins almost all his popular books with some kind of a gospel of happiness. He usually begins with all living beings strive towards happiness. My instant answer is maybe all living beings, but definitely not humans. If there is, and that's Freudian left. The problem I see with online dating is that it always automatically involves this aspect of self-commodification or self-manipulation. When you date online, you have to present yourself there in a certain way, putting forward certain qualities. You present an image of yourself. You focus on your idea of how other people should perceive you. But I think that's not how love functions, even at a very simple level. Aren't so-called, I think the English term is endearing foibles, an elementary ingredient on love. You cannot ever fall in love with a perfect person. There must be some tiny, small, disturbing element, and it is only through noticing this element that you say, but in spite of that imperfection, I love him or her. This is why, a funny story, they made in Europe, not in the United States, some decades ago when the two big modeling stars were Claudia Schiffer and Cindy Crawford, they made in France, I think, a big opinion poll like, whom would you prefer to live with? Cindy Crawford won. You know why? Because of that birth. Doesn't she have a small mole here, whatever birthmark? The idea was Claudia Schiffer is too perfect. There must be some tiny element of imperfection. And now let me tell you a totally crazy personal experience which happened to me. I was talking once in a faraway country, somewhere in Latin America, of course I will not say where, to a still very attractive lady, sexually, late 30s, who told me of a strange thing that happened to her. She told me that when her last lover saw her naked before making love, that he told her, if you were just to lose 3-4 pounds, your body would have been perfect. And I told her, just don't lose 3 or 4 pounds. Because, you know, like if she were effectively to lose 3 or 4 pounds, she wouldn't be perfect. She would just be plain. The illusion of perfection is created precisely by this excess. It's too much, but then you imagine, oh, without this, it would have been perfect. If you take away this excess, you don't get perfection. You know, this is what in psychoanalytic theory we call object cause of desire. Not object of desire. Object of desire in this case is a woman or a man or whatever. But the cause of desire, in the sense of what makes you fall in love, is always a sign of imperfection. So that's for me big problem I'm not doing it, so I don't know enough of it, how to include into online dating this element of contingency. I don't find the problem with online dating in the idea that you are not spontaneous, etc. Listen, we are never spontaneous. If there is a big lesson of all those Big Brother and other reality shows, is that even when we are just ourselves in private life, we always play being ourselves. And I think this is in a way a good thing. I mean, when people say, no, you know, all this actor studio mythology, express yourself, be who you really are. Well, I think most people are monsters secretly. I think I like to live in a society where you do whatever you want, just please don't express yourself too much, you know. I like people who know how to control themselves. I believe in proper manners. So this aspect of self-controlling, that you stage a certain image of yourself, this doesn't bother me with online dating, no? I even think, now I will, if you allow me, conclude with another paradox. It would be so interesting to demonstrate how precisely when we act in an apparently wild way, you know, like, let's say, it's not true, but let's say, we are talking in a nice, polite way, then, for whatever reason, you get mad at me or I get mad at you, and I explode. I start to swear using all dirty words, blah, blah. Now, one would have thought the situation is this one. In normal conversation, we control ourselves, then, when I cannot any longer control myself, I explode. No, I claim precisely these moments of explosion are the most precisely trained structures artificial. if you want. I noticed this, you know how? It's a beautiful anecdote, I like it. With my friends, I noticed that when we meet in a group to discuss, just to have fun, we have to go through a certain ritual of humiliating each other with extremely, it's not for our viewers to notice, you know, like the usual way we characterize each other, which it's the Balkan stuff. What I will do to your mother, your dead mother, I will dig her out of her grave and do things to her sexually. The most tasteless thing. Then, after 10 minutes of talking dirty, we tell to each other, okay, we paid our tribute to ugliness, we got rid of it, now we can finally be what we are and talk in a nice, polite way, you know. What I like it is that it is as if we have a certain perverse superego duty to talk dirty. And after you get rid of that, we can be what we are. This is why I have always a deep sympathy, although I'm not practicing, for sadomasochist sexuality. I noticed, especially 15, 20 years ago, because they were close to my theory, Lacanian psychoanalysis, I met many sadomasochist hard lesbians. And I can tell you, I never met nicer, more kind girls or women. It is as if they were able to enact all the dirty, disgusting stuff out there, so that then they could afford, when you paid your tribute to your superego, to be nice, kind, and so on and so on. So, to do the last joke in this series, maybe some viewers know it, but I love it. I think this is one of my, otherwise in my series of boring, repetitive jokes, maybe a better one. Where are we today with sexuality? The Guardian, the British newspaper, asked me, is romance still alive today? And my answer to them was, let's imagine an ideal sexual situation today. Let's say I meet a lady, we are attracted to each other, we say, okay, you're all the usual stuff, your place, my place, whatever, we meet there. Then, what happens then? She comes with her plastic penis, electric, dildo. I come with some horrible thing. I saw it. It's called something like stimulating training unit, whatever. It's basically a plastic vagina, a hole, but it's wonderful technologically. You can regulate everything, how much it squeezes you, how strongly it shakes, and so on. So my idea of a perfect date is the following one. We met, then she puts her plastic penis dildo into my stamina training unit, is the name of this product, into my plastic vagina. We plug them in, and the machines are doing it for us. They are buzzing in the background, and I'm free to do whatever I want. And we have a nice talk, we have tea, we talk about movies. What can be? We paid our superego full tribute. Machines are doing, and now where would have been here a true romance? Let's say I talk with the lady because we really like each other, and you know, when I'm pouring her tea or she to me, quite by chance, our hands touch, we go on touching, maybe we even end up in bed. But it's not the usual oppressive sex where you worry about performance. No, all that is taken care of by the stupid machines. That would be ideal sex for me today. You know, happiness is for me a very conformist category. It doesn't enter the frame. You have a serious ideological deviation at the very beginning of famous proclamation of independence, you know, pursuit of happiness. If there is a point in psychoanalysis, it is that people do not really want or desire happiness. And I think it's good that it is like that. For example, let's be serious. When you are in a creative endeavor, in that wonderful fever, my God, I'm onto something, and so on, happiness doesn't enter it. You are ready to suffer. Sometimes scientists, I read history of quantum physics or earlier of radiation, were even ready to take into account the possibility that they will die because of some radiation and so on. You know, happiness is for me an unethical category. And also, we don't really want to get what we think that we want. The classical story that I like, the traditional male chauvinist scenario. I am married to a wife, relations with her are cold, and I have a mistress. And all the time I dream, oh my God, if my wife were to disappear, I'm not a murderer, but let us say, drop me, it would open up new life for me with the mistress. You know what every psychoanalyst will tell you quite often happens? That then, for some reason, wife goes away, you lose the mistress also. You thought, this is all I want. When you have it there, you turn out that it was a much more complex situation where what you want is not really to live with the mistress, but to keep her as a distance, as an object of desire about which you dream. And this is not just an excessive situation. I claim that this is how things function. We don't really want what we think we desire. I think that precisely because it no longer has this economic function. Marriage today can be something beautiful. It's just a pure commitment. You say basically to society, I care for this person more than for anybody else. I want to be, it's just, for me, it can survive marriage as a commitment to share a world with somebody. For me, okay. Sex is beautiful, passionate nights, whatever. But as we all know, then when you awaken, there is a problem. And here true love begins for me. You know, when you, it's not just we were all the night doing it, but when you have to build patiently small daily rituals, daily life, who will clean the toilet, who will do this, who will do that. All these wonderful small rituals. How do you prepare breakfast? We go there. And that's, for me, the true miracle of marriage. This commitment of two, that's why I also, maybe this will be disappointment to your readers, I don't believe in this fashionable notion of polyamory, you know. Oh, I can love more persons.
You mean open relationship?
I'm not a moralist. I don't care if people do it. For me, there is still something absolutely exclusive about loving just one person. Because, you know, how to put it, when you have polyamory, open relationships, it's usually too pragmatic. It's, I have different needs. Let's say for intelligent talks or whatever, I need you. For intense sex, I need you. For fun, I need you. That's not love for me. Love is not about satisfying your needs. Love is a kind of a more metaphysical even, absolute trust. Love is, I cannot live without you, and I'm ready to change radically just to be with you. In this sense, I would say, I don't know what will happen, just let's not get rid of marriage, because precisely today, in our crazy world of all this, you know, the ideology today is experiment with yourself. This is typical American ideology. Don't get fixed on something. Different partners, different sexual orientations. Today you are heterosexual, make some homosexual experiments, make some group orgy experiments, and so on and so on. I don't find this satisfying.